Come back. So this is not going to be a long live, and I'm only doing a live because it's just easier to upload where I am. Although I have good internet, at times it can be super slow unless I do it where I work because they have like, the commercial top notch, extra super duper internet over there because it's quicker. So maybe if I pre-record and then upload when I'm there, that's different. And this is a way too, just to get to chat with you guys. And I uploaded super late, so it's probably going to be like a 20 to 30-minute live. And I thought of the word too, the phrase urban herbalist, because you got the word herb. Remember, notice that, guys? It just popped into my head, it's just one of those things. So I've been one to always talk about different herbs, and not just the one that people know about, but actually ones that you drink, and how there's a different herb for each ailment. And you can be a city dweller and still have a small garden, or at least, update your medicine cabinet, i.e., spice cabinet, tea cabinet, and have different herbs and teas. I'm drinking chamomile. And, sometimes I'll put up little shorts, guys, of going out to a restaurant, and I'm not into drinking. It's just a social thing because it hits me so hard. So it was my day off today. So I just don't understand, there are people who are just made different, who can do that and function and everything else because we're just made differently, right? But that isn't to say that we're so different, because there's a lot of scientific literature that goes into how the human body has cannabinoid, receptors, right, for cannabis. So I've already did many videos on that, help decriminalize that. If anybody asks, one of my major interests is constitutional law study, and helping people with that and assess that and exercise that, because there's a lot of people who, talk a lot of crap on America, but, America is just the land. What about the people that inhabit her, right? So maybe she just needs a good cleanup, and I don't think she's a lost cause, because if you go to other countries, which I think it's a whole psyop how people do it, like drumming up all this fear, trying to drum up people to move out of the country, but yet they didn't leave the country, right? And the ones who do, I mean, yeah, there's a whole trade-off because it's not very easy. Sometimes they glamorize it, and if you don't do your due diligence, I mean, things can happen to you no matter where you go. Make sure you guys like the video. So I'm drinking chamomile tea, if you guys didn't know. My nose was itchy, guys. It is that time of the season. 'Tis the season. It's funny how people will like make assumptions too with some people who do videos, or, just certain groups of people in general. So a lot of people are hip to it, and it's just interesting how perception alone is powerful and, can definitely make or break people, it seems. But, I just don't let that move me in any way. All I can do is be genuine on my channel. I do see a lot of people with the most to say don't live what they're saying too. And, people got to learn to judge not lest ye be judged, because hey, for many years, people were going to jail over a plant that in the native tradition was used as medicine, and there's different types of trees and whatnot. So, this is what's missing too in a lot of schools, because if kids are being raised in the schools and they're taught to be American, they should, yes, know about their rights. They should know about foraging. They should know about basic skills, how to make a fire, how to, deal with finances a little bit better. So they don't really give you like a straight curriculum that definitely carries you through, unless it's a specific field, may it be medical or technological. and maybe some of the math, and that's something that you have to, refresh your memory constantly, because just like anything else, your mind can, only take so much. But, I really advocate big on herbal remedies because, one, the Bible talks about that. Herbs were for the healing of the nations. The original term for pharmacy was with the letter F. So, yeah, for farm and the different foods and stuff like that. So we're in such a processed nation, and this affects everyone. And then, what do they have for people? They try to medicate everyone. I know people who are not that old, but they're on blood thinners and all these different things, and they can't regulate their body temperature. And, there's just others who are on psych meds, they share some of their stuff, right? And it's just really interesting because, it's sad, but there are a lot of side effects with that stuff. I've always fought against it ever since I was younger. I always knew plants were so much better. I used to, go forage for daylilies. I have a picture of me at like 3 years old doing that. So, and perception is really powerful. It's tough when people judge books by their cover too. And it's interesting when people take, one look at certain people and they want to make a whole story, which is complete trash. And that's on them too, right? And it's really not a compliment, right? With some of it, but that's fine. And that's on people because they're not bringing anything, of substance and value to help others, right? Because a lot of people now, they're just pulling up people's, channels or pictures and just trying to point and snicker at each other too, right? Which sucks, right? So a lot of people are like spiritually sick. I had a video that I had to take down just because I had the heater in my car just going to, it was too loud, guys. It was actually a good video. It was called It's So Sad, It's Savage. And really, when you start to look around some of the news stories, I guess in California, there was a young lady. Her name was Celeste Rivers. I think she was like 14, found dismembered in some guy's car, in some singer's car. Women really have to be careful what they do, who they go out with. I don't care if you got to take a picture of people's license plates. It is not a game, okay? I guess there's something to be said about dating apps. I guess you got to be vetted a little bit, but so many people, especially when they're trying to rush each other, get caught up in the moment, that's when the so-called devil comes in, and that's how you get yourself in a lot of trouble. And they're like, not knowing how she passed away and all that. And I'm like, shoot, she could have been choked to death, because a lot of these guys, they think that's cute. You got a lot of these creepy actresses, and, there's a lot of people in Hollywood that promote certain things that are just not healthy, that they're actually against women. You almost think like, are they actual women? Because women, like normal, natural women, would not, go for that stuff or accept certain things, right? It's very animalistic, and people don't like when people misjudge them. So when they do it to me, it's like, hey, you don't want me to think that, your lifestyle or culture is demoralized and this and that on first take, because I know going back several generations, there was more upstanding people. People had a little bit more dignity. You know what I mean? They use their time a little bit more wisely. And, if that's what people think that is something worthwhile, and, that is something that should be, remembered as anything good. If anything, all it makes them look like is professional hecklers, right? But perception is a powerful thing. You can be too close to something and not realize, and it's funny. Sometimes I have to, laugh too. It can be comedy when people are trying to compare each other's, companions, and they're like, oh, my person is so amazing. And you look at them, you're like, you don't have a prize either, sir. But like, again, it's all about, people's intentions. If you can, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, you care about someone, and or looks weren't like the top priority, although, you know what I mean? You want somebody that you can connect with and that you like, to a point that you could, date or whatever, right? It's like now people are just, they're just so into the entertainment and the shock value. And I think, they're bluffing on a lot of the stuff too, right? Because, when you look closely, you don't see that they're perfect either. And a lot of times they're talking about people who are not interested in them either, or wouldn't work side by side them and wouldn't really care about their opinion. So it's like, yeah, it's just, they're just talking to the winds basically. Make sure you guys like the video if you're here. So yeah, people, they'll think like, oh, if you smoke or if you do like herbal teas or whatever, like it's something, stronger. I don't take any type of prescription, anything. I've always recommended herbal stuff. And yeah, it could sedate someone to a point, and it's only good for any type of, taking the edge off. People dealt with it with PTSD. There's some people with anger issues. Hey, if I was an anger management counselor, I'd be like, hey, do what you got to do to take the edge off, because it's going to cost you more later on. It's going to raise your blood pressure. And a lot of times people too, they think that alcohol is such a good supplement. Well, we know what happens to people with that, and people lose their lives drunk driving. They do all this stuff. So like, if I ever even have one drink, I'm with somebody and I'm not driving and I'm going straight to bed after. And I do that sparingly. It's good maybe with like a full meal, you know what I mean, every once in a while, but like I'll have like a straight headache the next day and be needing to hydrate myself, or I'll fast. And it's good to fast. Let me see if I can see a little better. Hello. It'll be good to fast. It's good to fast on your days off. I don't recommend it if you're working or if you're doing anything strenuous, because you're going to feel really lightheaded, So like if you're doing a day of detox, herbal teas are really good. Just staying hydrated. If you want to have some fruit, that's good too. So I always try to eat like really good for myself, because I have a weak stomach. I just like my body, I guess you get used to it. And I've been like that ever since I was young. So anything too heavy, I'll just have like a little bit of it and I'll be done with it. And then I'll offset it with like doing smoothies, doing herbal teas, and you'll be amazed at how better you'll feel. You'll feel, you can put rosemary, that increases your memory. It's great for hydration too. It's so good for your skin. You can literally bottle it up and put it on your, use it as a mist, put it on your hair and all that. So I'm always sharing that type of information. But even on here, it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you do faceless content, if you just do screen records, which I've done too, and just like go over certain things, which is fine, I can do that too, then the algorithm is not sure if you're sharing the content or not. And it's like, oh, it could still be you with your voice and all of that. And so when you do show your face, people are gonna say something about that. It's like, it could be your appearance or your clothes or this. And it's like, oh, you remind them of someone or something. It's like, it's not my fault. These people demoralize themselves and act like knuckleheads, because that's not how I live my life. I have a good imagination. I don't need to, you know what I mean? Watch other people and be a creep or whatever people do, right? You hear all kind of stuff, right? So that's not my lifestyle. Hey, I like to indulge once in a while and watch the show Soft White Underbelly just like anyone else. But that don't mean, hey, that's any of our lifestyles. If anything, I want to throw up. I'm just like, what is going on? Like I watched the most recent one, and I just don't understand people. And that it's a defense mechanism. There was this girl talking about the porn industry, and she was saying that a lot of the guys were ugly, and that I'm like, oh my gosh, like what are you even doing with your life? Like what the hell? And then like I can see how some people turn suicidal. It's like you go down this trajectory, then you overshare. Like what are you doing? It's unbelievable, right? And a lot of times too, karma will happen with people. It can be your relatives, or it can be people from your past and stuff, right? And they will be, trying to judge you just for going out to a dance club. Like I was raised really, really strict, where it's like guys can do whatever, right? And in a lot of these cultures, thank God I'm in America, right? Because seriously, and even in America, you would be like, wow, a lot of the people who want to claim that they're from here generation after generation, they don't have much respect or guidelines and any of that stuff. They're pretty savage and freaking barbaric. So it's like, I'm so freaking thankful for the Constitution and the rights that it gives people, because like seriously, it's unbelievable, right? And you're just hearing how some people, yeah, they'll degrade themselves and they'll overshare, right? And so you're like, wow, that's wild, right? And I can see how some people are chastised for their lifestyle, because yeah, if it's to that egregious point. And you could just been like a kid. I was a minor, just like, it was so tame in the 90s. It wasn't even like, my God, like the stuff now, it's like people are just looking for problems, right? It's like one thing to, you know what I mean, go out and, try to have fun with your friends. And then it's a very different thing now, how people, I guess, maybe, being exposed to more technology. It's a curse and a blessing for some of these kids, because like anything just pops up, and then it becomes to the point that it's like they're so desensitized. And I'm just like, wow, I wouldn't want to be that. And I wouldn't want to trade that for anything. That's the same thing with the medical industry and everything else. They'll give you like the small stuff, and then you'll graduate to the biggest stuff, and then I'll see people, and like years later they're like unrecognizable. And you can see that with celebrities too. Like they'll look really different. And I'm like, oh, wow, maybe they were put on, steroids for, lung issues or whatever. Cause like these doctors will try to push a lot of things on people. And I've just been smart enough to be like, no, kick rocks. And anytime I go for a checkup, they're like, oh, and any medications? I'm like, hell no. I'm like, yeah, herbal ones. I'm like, I'm really into Chinese medicine and all that. They're just looking at me like, they're like, oh, your skin is really nice. I'm like, yeah, I want to keep it that way and stay away from all that hard stuff. So I just stick with teas. Coffee is like maybe the stimulant of choice. And then, I'll do the herbal stuff. But I'm proud that I helped decriminalize that. So many people were in jail, taking up space for nothing, when you have real dirtbag criminals and pedophiles and women predators. I mean, you got a 14-year-old girl being cut up in California. What's that about? I had my coworker said, he's like, you would have been a really good CO or a cop. I'm like, actually, I would have been a really good detective. I did go to school for computer forensics, and I did want to, solve cyber crime and all of that good stuff, right? And but I wouldn't work in a jail, because I couldn't see women in such a devolved state. Maybe like post, to help like with PTSD, maybe being institutionalized or whatnot, and to form healthy habits, and give them some grief counseling, because I'm sure they're dealing with a lot of grief. And the people who work in those institutions, they bear a lot of the energy. You could see it on them and stuff, and that just can't be good for their soul. So it's almost like you're, in prison with them. So I couldn't, but I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but yeah, not my thing. Hey, how are you? Thanks for coming by and liking my video. I'm not going to stay long because I started too late. Back to work tomorrow. This is a short week. I am very, very happy about that. We're getting paid for a full week, but I'm just working a couple of days. So I'll be working on my Patreon. If you guys need any type of, coaching when it comes to passports, but I'm really careful with that too, because, some people misconstrue that stuff too. And it's usually for people who are born here and are just, claiming their state national status. So it's not, oh, okay, helping foreigners come in. Although even that term, everything is just so gaslit on here. So again, perception is power, is like a pill, is a very potent thing. So it's almost like, you have to just forge your own path, and you can't allow what others' perception, what they think, affect you in any way, because you know what? People will eat their words soon enough. And the people who had like the heaviest hand and the quickest remarks, they end up paying for it either with their own kids or in their own life. And then you hear their crazy stories. And then now it's becoming like so cool now for people to like overshare their personal stuff, which is cool, for a testimony. But a lot of people don't know how to exercise their Fifth Amendment right to stay silent, because just like with that song when I put up with Eazy-E, and when you listen to the lyrics, it's so true, because the realest ones in my day weren't the ones who were like, braggadocious about anything. As they say, it's the quiet ones that you have to look out for. Especially too, I've helped people too who, have been rehabilitated and had records sealed and, turned their lives around and stuff. That is a privilege where they have in those cases that they don't need to speak on it in the future. You know what I mean? It's almost like your medical record. But people come on, they're like, I did this, I did that. And I'm like, that's not real. I'm like, are these people dumb? You're just putting like a target on your back, and now you're gonna put yourself in that box indefinitely. And it's like, oh, okay, the case is closed now, or this, I speak, I'm seeing so many of that, online, and I'm like, for clout or whatever they're doing. And yeah, they'll get their views for it, but it's at their own expense. And I'm like, or, you know what I mean? Again, these fake podcasts, especially some of the girls who are like, oh, I'm such a male advocate. I'm so different. I'm so traditional. I'm so this and that, right? And, in the same breath, putting on a show. And a lot of them look like, they came out of a gang, and, that's the kind of guy maybe they're going to attract, right? It's like you don't want to change anything, right? So you're going to attract what you are, or guys who are just so like hateful with women, and then wonder why, they don't have like their results. It's like, because that's the energy you're putting out, and that's the perception, or you're highly judgmental, or you know what I mean? You're so quick to be like, okay, X, Y, and Z, I don't want this, but it's okay, you know what I mean, for me to have all of these flaws, right? So it's just, one of those things that, you have to have a strong mind and have your own perception of things. So make sure you guys like the video. I'm going to let you guys go. But yes, I teach herbal medicine on here. I'm drinking a little bit of chamomile that's good to relax, and some soursop tea that is good to help fight cancer cells and whatnot. I've been, through my little physicals, and no cancer here, cancer free. Love it. Hopefully I'm, some type of antidote, maybe. Hopefully, right? I'm a strong white T cell, right? Your white T cells are the ones who fight all the bad guys in your immune system. God is so amazing when it comes to how your body was put together, and just like the sacred science that went behind all of it, and how our body has such a connection to herbs. Like our fingerprint looks almost like the same when you cut down a tree, and you can see the rings around it. Our vessels look like, plants, like you take a leaf, if you see, certain compilations, you'll see like the different pitches. It's amazing, right? So that there was a divine creator, that put it all together, right? And gave us the tools, needed to take care of ourselves. Even the animals know that, right? You don't have to be in the country or whatever to know, right? Because, there's, trees in everybody's backyard, right? You go to a place where it's away from the pollution, and you can harvest, or you can plant your own little garden. You can have a couple of plants in your house. You can have them in little pots or whatever. You can buy them yourself, you know what I mean? And just have that. And that can be like your medicine cabinet too. And you'll notice that there is an equivalent for every pill that's out there. Okay. And for people who have like emotional issues, a lot of time it's a nutritional deficiency, and people want to be like, oh, no one taught me this and that. And the day of the internet, no one has an excuse. You can look up anything. I was the baby of 3 and I didn't get taught all the skills that I thought I needed. So I looked it up. I am self-taught. I'm a go-getter. That's how you got to be. You know what I mean? I tapped into my divine gifts. I prayed on it. Let God show me what I needed to do, found my purpose, and taught others. And that's what I do on my channel too. You know, looking for solutions, changing the public perception about all the freaking crap that's out there, and you know, having people think a little deeper, and hopefully, you know, they can clean up their perception, right? A lot of people got like dirty spots on their eyes. I don't know how, you know, people can look at the same thing, the same outfit, the same person, and have a totally different perception. You can't even worry about that, because what's good today will be bad tomorrow, vice versa. Just a few years ago when I was a teenager, it was like they treated you like you smoked crack for herb, right? For cannabis. Like, sorry guys, they treated it like, oh my. And I'm like, and that was just so inherent to me. Like, out of all the things that's out there, the worst that can happen to you is that you're going to go to sleep or whatever, right? And the people who have the biggest pitchforks, they have addictions in other ways too. They could be really into junk food. They can be really into porn or sex or whatever, right? You have to, you know, a state of enlightenment is being able to go without certain things, right? And overcome and know that, like, hey, you know, I can go without whatever earthly thing for a certain period of time. And you know what I mean? You build strength from that too, and you don't let that stuff consume you and rule you, right? And you see people for what they are, and you see that they're much more than these things too. And people don't even know how to look that far with each other. And then when they don't get that back and they get treated like dog shit, they wonder why. Well, how are you treating other people? How are you coming the intention? Are you having, you know what I mean, any type of hygiene about yourself too? And a lot of people don't. They treat each other like they're disposable, and it's like, ew. You know what I mean? You can't even focus on one thing long enough. Like, that's what I'm saying, right? People like them, they're really savage. And, you know, you really have to be careful, because people, you know what I mean? They can give you all the flattery or whatever and have bad intentions and lure you into hell. There's a lot of things that are going on, you know, even in my town, you know, a young guy, he got shot, and I'm like, you know what I mean? We need to just be grateful. A lot of people like are so quick to be like, oh my God, I have it so hard. And then you hear somebody else's bad day. Just a few days ago on a job site, these 2 guys were up on like a roof or like this big structure, and it gave out, and one guy went face first into a hole, and they didn't find him until 5 hours later. I'm like, imagine starting off your day. You don't realize that your next step couldn't be your last step. You know what I'm trying to say, right? So really be careful, and you know, and appreciate what you got going on, because let me tell you, you have a lot going on if you really look into it. And we have more power than we think we do, and we don't have to offset it to other people or to institutions. And if we can only, you know, try to take the time to learn for ourselves, we can do a lot better. But yeah, I've been hearing like crazy stories, and I'm like, imagine that going to work. The construction industry, it's crazy. Oh, here I go. I know, just thinking about it got me messed up. I feel so bad for their family, but even in this area too. So like, I'm all about, you know, being really careful. I don't stay out late. I do what I got to do during the day, my work or whatever. And I know this world is crazy, but you know, I understand America has her problems, but other countries have it too. And there's a lot of guys who try to bring third world, you know, laws into America, and it's like, if they don't like it, then they can leave. You know what I'm trying to say? If there's people, you know what I mean, that don't like it, you know what I mean? And I'm sure in other countries there's even worse jobs out there too. But you know, you really have to be careful, because you know, people are, you know, risking their lives every day, you know, to make an honest living. And you got so many shitheads who are just scheming or doing stupid stuff online, like, you know, thinking they're doing something. And I'm like, there's people behind the scenes keeping the infrastructure together, and no one bats an eye, you know? So yeah, it is really, really awful. And yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine having that be like the last moments of your life. And even that young girl too, for all I know, a lot of these murders, it could be choked. That's probably why there's a rise of even sellout women pushing that too. And so again, what is America really about? There's just a lot of people that are not well who think that, oh, okay, by skin or this or that, it makes them like holier than thou. It's like, no, by your actions, God will know us by our fruits, right? It's our actions. So I love you guys. I think I'm at 30 minutes. I don't want to go on and on. Thank you so much for coming through. Hey, yeah, super awful. Hopefully we can treat each other right going forward, guys. Have a good day. I'm going to upload this now before I lose time. And until next time.